Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, I was away last week and we had quite a big Raid Digest drop. I just wanted to go into some of the info actually and kind of like talk about what's going down. So firstly, the big one that we need to call out here is that bosses are going to get a rebalance. Specifically bosses, I think, which get very small amounts of playtime. So, or perhaps that are only being cheesed. It's probably one of the other ways to put it. So we've got here Iron Twins, Phantom Shogun, and Sand Devil. Now, what's quite interesting with these three, I do my free-to-play series every year. And every year I just kind of advise people, these are not bosses that you should be doing if you're a newer player. Okay, they just don't make any sense to do as a newer player at all in terms of where you should focus your energy and time and all that type of stuff. Ascending gear and even more so ascending accessories, it's an end game practice to grow your power, to be able to kind of like take your teams from farming stage 25 type stuff up to farming hard dungeons. It's the type of stuff that enables you to go from beating normal Doom Tower to beating hard Doom Tower, perhaps even really just like the last 30 stages of hard Doom Tower. It's taking you on to kind of like brutal and nightmare Hydra. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that ascending your gear will do. And most players don't even get a sniff of that until they've played the game for at least a year. Yeah, and the Sand Devil, I'd say even more so, is just a waste of energy compared to other stuff in the game. Albeit, souls make a massive difference to your account. Okay, but the trouble is, the rewards suck, for the energy you put in. And yeah, pretty much only on a Sunday is it worth doing any sort of Sand Devil. And that's if you've got all the rest of your kind of like account in order. So interesting they've picked these three, which are all quite endgame dungeons. But the bosses just don't make a lot of sense for players to even get involved in. So I guess let's just go over those. Before we do, let's just have a quick look through the other stuff that's in this note. Because what I want to do is just give some thoughts on these three bosses and what they might do. But the other big thing here they call out is the Cursed City rotations. Now, Safa kind of seen in the code, doing the Matrix, seen in the code that there were 5 rotations. And obviously we've seen all 5 of those. Quite interesting what they're saying here. So we saw much discussion regarding Cursed City rotations. We decided to bring some clarity as to why it's so hard to pin down what will be in the next rotation. Technically, Cursed City has got 5. Yeah, we saw that. The reason why we looked at that is because for the optimizer, we like to do the team optimizer stuff, right? So trying to help people share their teams with the community. That's what the team optimizer really does. And we were like, how do we get this information to the player base? It was quite hard to do. But anyway, it says here, so technically, Cursed City's got 5 rotations at the moment. Each stave has got 5 filter sets. Each rotation will use one of the 5 filters. The Cursed City will circulate them one after another. So it sounds to me like this just going to go around in rotation. Once all 5 filters are used, the game will randomize all available filters and start the next rotation set. So for the curious ones, yes, we've made sure that the 5th and 6th rotations won't repeat each other's filters. So I think what this is saying is that the 5 rotations are now fixed and you're going to randomly get one of the 5 each time. I don't think it's saying it's always random every single time. Okay. I'm not sure if it's worded that well, but I think what they're saying is it will always be one of the 5, but you never know which one. So it says here for the once the filters start repeating, once they start repeating, you will start seeing your team from the previous rotation that you used to beat that filter. So I guess what it probably is saying here that after rotation 5, you're not necessarily going to see rotation 1, but you also will never see rotation 5 followed by rotation 5, I think. But it's interesting anyway. So they've kind of locked in on the 5 now. So we should start seeing teams that we've used in the past start to come round if you've beaten stuff. They fixed a couple of bugs as well. There's actually an interesting one here about supersonic gear where they're saying that the gear is actually worded incorrectly and the 9th piece of supersonic makes a set kind of nuts. Actually, this bonus will increase turn meter boosts cast by this champion, not turn meter boosts that hit this champion. And again, Saf's done a like detailed video on this, just basically saying that supersonic gear might be like next gen turn meter gear once people start to get those kind of like 9-piece sets going, and they get it to the speed where they can actually, you know, replace their speed gear. But that's probably down the line for a lot of people. But interesting that they've made that. I don't know if it was already working properly, but just the text was wrong, or if they're making the change to the text and the way it works. I don't think I've got anyone in 9-piece supersonic, so I hadn't noticed any of this stuff. But interesting bug to fix. That will definitely make some changes for people going forward. And just here as well, there is personal rewards in Clan v Clan coming tomorrow. So let's talk about these bosses then. 3 bosses which probably don't get too much playtime. I did a video showing the best teams for certain bosses earlier in the year, and also showed like how many runs were happening in these different bosses. Certainly, Phantom Shogun is like way down in terms of activity. Sun Devils is not too bad, and Iron Twins is kind of way down as well. Yeah, so the 2 dungeons, 2 out of the 3 are not really run a lot. Let's start with Iron Twins. This was the first one that was released. I'm just going to call out the things which I think suck about Iron Twins right now. Number 1, it's got energy and keys. Just make it keys. Take away the energy and you will see people try and do Iron Twins on a daily basis raid. Simple as that. Take away the energy requirement. We've got enough to do without energy. And I'm talking about the average player. The average player has got so much going on to do with their energy. Literally, we're doing fusion into Titan event, into fusion, into Titan event, throwing in other stuff in the mix. Like, there's way more than you can do with energy right now. When's the last time someone could run Minotaur? Like, or Iron Twins as an average player? You can't do it. Same thing, actually, with Sand Devil and Phantoms. Because these dungeons do not appear in any of those type of events, they don't even help for things like Dungeon Divers. When do you ever have the energy to do these things? That's one of your problems, Raid. Like, it's actually, the mechanics suck in these 3, but that's one of your problems, is that you're not letting people do it. So no wonder they're not doing it. They don't have time to do it. So if they just made these 3 dungeons and Minotaur, I would say, but they're not doing it in this rebalance. If they made those 4 areas give good points for Dungeon Divers, I think you'll find more people would do them, like just straight away. Yeah. But anyway, Iron Twins, take away the energy. That way, everyone will do it every day. The second thing, and even if it's a low-level player, they would still do the low-level one every day. Yeah, because at that point, well, why wouldn't you try and get some of the soul juice and pull yourself some souls? Because souls make a big impact in the game over time. The second big one is the rewards just completely suck. Like, they are not worth your energy and time to do this on a daily basis. It just honestly, it sucks so bad. Like, you at least doubling the rewards, but probably more like ×4 the rewards. Yeah, and then maybe people think that the energy here is starting to be worth some time. Maybe. But yeah, this is definitely a massive problem. Like, the energy reward is, the energy to reward scale just doesn't make any sense. Like, a full 12 farm is what I used to do when it first came out. A full 12 farm, getting like, what, 1 minuscule soul and a half, about 1.5 souls of the small versions. And if you're lucky, you get a bit of the dust. And, you know, I need to get the dust like, what, 60 times? 60 times before I actually get like a level 4 soul. Like, it's... and the drop rate on the dust is really low. Oh, it's just... It's so out of sync and out of kilter with where it needs to be. You could even add another currency in here. Like, so it does this, and maybe you get, I don't know, remember that thing you got in your game called Token Trader? Maybe you get some Token Trader resource in here. Like, there's a whole bunch. Every time you turn on Prism Shards and the new Prism Souls, maybe you get some of that reward drop in here. Like, you've got currencies in your game that you don't leverage. So if you've got areas of the game that don't really get played, why don't you add a premium currency into that alongside the other things? Why not? So anyway, that's a problem. The other problem I want to demonstrate on the optimizer here. So if I go into Team Optimizer for my end game account and I pull up Iron Twins. So it doesn't matter the affinity. I'll do Void for this one. If I go to stage 15 and find a team, what it will do is it'll tell me how many teams are up for grabs, right? So for me, I've got 4,675 individual teams that I could build. Yeah. And you can go through and you can see all of the kind of crazy teams that are in there. And it's kind of, for me, it scales the fastest I could do down to the slowest, obviously. Yeah. Now watch this. So 4,675. If I exclude Geomancer from those teams, 4,675 to 611. Okay, if I exclude, bloody hell, if I exclude Acrizia, I didn't realize these kind of like crazy teams were even in here. So I've not redone mine in a long time. But if I exclude Acrizia as well, so 2 champions out of the pool. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Let's see if I take Newt out. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, so those big hitters which just do like phenomenal damage, like the Newts and Acrizias, they're in a bunch of the teams. But I guess the other one you get is stuff like the Emic or Painkeeper unkillable teams. Maybe if I take Painkeeper out, be interesting to see as well. Not too many. Okay, again, not too many. So I like that there's options, but the fact that Geomancer is so strong makes a joke of this boss. And I'm not saying nerf Geomancer or any of that sort of stuff. I'm saying the mechanics of the boss do not allow for teams that are quick unless you've got Geomancer. And that's a massive problem with boss design, okay? Or unless you've got, you know, like 2 of a certain OP champion alongside another OP champion. Like, that should not be the fundamentals around how boss design works. And, you know, the Geomancer passive shouldn't be the only way you get this boss killed in any sort of time. Honestly, like, unless you're on an endgame Kraken account, if you don't have Geomancer, the boss is just pointless to do. Nobody builds teams that actually try and beat the boss by the boss's mechanics. Okay, that's a problem with boss design. No champions that do phenomenal damage to single target bosses do phenomenal damage to the Iron Twins boss. That's a problem with your game design. Little Miss Annie, Turvold, like these champions do big hits, but they cannot do big hits to this boss. Yeah, if I was to say must include Turvold, there's 2 teams and one of them takes 4 minutes and the other one takes 7 minutes 20. For one of the biggest hitters in the game, and in this team, I can see it, he's unkillable, so 7 minutes. And there's 2 teams and they've only run a couple of battles, so I can only assume that maybe they don't even work well. Yeah, that's a problem with your design. That you have to use either, what's call it, enemy max HP hits or Geomancer hits. It's a problem with your design. So I'll be interested to see what they do with it, because what I'm hoping they do is they make it more accessible for other types of damage dealers, like your Turvolds. I mean, originally when we looked at the design of the boss, I thought it might be like a bit of a poison damage boss. And, you know, using the mechanics like decreased speed, decreased accuracy, and then bringing poisoners in, you know, and that would be way more accessible for a lot of players. But it just never turned out that way because it takes too damn long to kill him and he cleanses all of that off anyway. You know, it just becomes a bit of a silly boss, honestly. Bit of a silly boss. So hopefully they're going to make some good changes to make that work better. And obviously changes to the reward side of things. So you then got Phantom's Grove. Now, Phantom's Grove, it's quite a tough boss, but it's more achievable to kill him with, you know, I've built out a couple of more normal teams. I don't have a normal team now. The problem with this boss is the ascension levels that you need to be able to be in the fight. And he hits so damn hard. Like, if he gets over 10 stacks of the, I don't know what they call it actually, but if he gets over 10 of the stacks, you've basically done a wipe, unless you get lucky. So, you know, that's a problem with boss design as well, especially when getting souls is a massive problem for the average player because of all the things I just spoke about. Yeah, it's like one's rolling into the other, and that's a problem. And, you know, they've made some changes to things like the wish list now so that it's more achievable. I still think they could probably double that again, and it's more worth, you know, for the average player, because too many players don't have souls for their champions, or they got like level 1 soul, maybe level 2 soul. If I looked at my free-to-play account, most of the champions I use, I'm just looking at the market, the merchant, and thinking, please drop me a soul that I need. Yeah, versus actually rolling soul stones. So yeah, so that's a problem. So we've got a dungeon here which is relying on awakenings, and awakenings, the awakening system, apart from for people that spend a ton of money, is very difficult to use. So I actually think the mechanics of this boss would be fine if the awakening requirements were just a bit lower, because there's actually quite a lot of options here. Maybe if I look at the optimizer for this boss. So if we're looking at Phantom's Grove, what have I just done there? Stage 1, not stage 1. I just see, yeah, one of the other challenges here is potentially getting to stage 25. But okay, so we've only got 550 individual teams here, right? So if I exclude Emic from this, what does that do here? Takes it down to 94. Oh no, that must include, sorry. If I exclude Emic, takes like 10% of them. I guess it's not too bad. Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely some mechanics you've got to hit. I mean, for me, it's doable, and there are more kind of examples of like rares in the mix, like Renegade, Cold Hearts. The mechanics are kind of interesting. I think for me, the problem with this one is just you've got to be playing the game for so long for this to be even worthwhile to you. Like it's the last thing on the rung that I would want to do. And again, maybe it just needs to be not energy but keys. So that, okay, I'll do it, but I'm not going to waste my energy to do it, you know, because it's just so low down on the list. It's not until I'm fighting for, you know, perhaps gold level live arena that I'm even fussed about having these stats. So it's just so low on the list, honestly. The only things that I really care about with my Ascension would be to try and get more crit damage out of a crit damage amulet, and that's at my level. So I'm sure people that play the game for arena, that play it hard, probably ascend all of their pieces all the time, which makes sense because, you know, that kind of like min-maxing to the nth degree is the difference sometimes between you winning and losing. But that's so few of the player base. Like that's a real low percentage of the player base that would do that. So that's really the problem here is, you know, the requirement to do it. But then the last one, Sand Devil, I think ascending your bottom rung gear, like your gloves, your chest and your boots, actually is quite game changing. Yeah, and I'd say once you're kind of like comfortably past mid game and, you know, you've got dungeons on farm and stuff like that, Sand Devil's actually a really good place to farm to give you more power to be able to push on to do, you know, the last areas of Doom Tower, push on Hydra, you know, be able to kind of like compete at higher levels of Amius stuff. So Sand Devil's actually a good place to farm. The big problem here, a bit like the problem with Iron Twins, is like it's a one champion show. You know, Godseeker completely defies the logic of the dungeon, and therefore Godseeker's going to be in the majority of the teams, right? So if we back up here and look at this dungeon, stage 25, and then exclude, so we've got 805 teams. Again, it's not that many. These only show teams that have been run whilst the optimizer's open. But if we exclude Godseeker from those, find a team, stage 25. Has the optimizer just blown up? Maybe the optimizer's gone kaboot because of all the updates and stuff. But basically, it's the majority of teams are running this kind of like Godseeker with Ninja approach. It's not until you get something like double Newt and, you know, like guaranteed kind of landing stuff that you would change it up. So that's one problem. The other problem, which I think is actually a bigger problem, is it's very difficult to get a team that goes from level 1 through to level 25. I actually think this is a way bigger problem, honestly. Like level 1 through to like level 25. I showed a video maybe when it first came out, like, I don't know, whenever that was, a couple of years ago. I don't even know. I tried to do an updated video when they put this dust in. I have not found a scrap of a better way of doing it than what I did it 2 years ago. And that's having to change stats of your whole team using this kind of like, honestly, a very, very dodged kind of like group with the revive on death stuff going on. Like, unless you've got Godseeker, the growth from stage, say, 7 to 10 or whatever that you can do solo up to stage 25, it is really difficult to do. So the whole mechanics of the fight get bypassed. This team actually try and use the mechanics of the fight, but that's only because I've got double Newt in there, and double Newt is doing all my damage. Like, yeah, it's just people are not running the mechanics of the boss. Therefore, it's a terrible boss. That's the facts. So as I say, this is actually an area that's worth farming, especially stage 25. But getting to stage 25 is a ball ache. It really is. It's a nightmare. Even this team, the way I've set this up, if he wakes up, like I can't hit before he wakes up, otherwise it ruins the run. So you have to time it so that he wakes up and then you come in with all the damage. Like the mechanics of the fight are just a bit crap. So, you know, once you've got it on farm, fine. It's quite a quick farm, and even with the Godseeker farm, it's quite quick, couple of minutes. And then you've got the other problem that it doesn't help you towards dungeon divers, all that sort of stuff I've spoken about. So I'm hoping they think a bit bigger than just let's make a couple of changes to the boss fight. I hope they think bigger picture. Why are people not running these things? And, you know, and kind of like tweak the game whilst they're tweaking these 3 bosses. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Do you do it? If you do, why? If you don't, why? And, you know, what would you like to see changed in these different areas? And maybe what I'll do is I'll come back with a second video with people's thoughts. I mean, it's probably already done, honestly. Whatever they're going to change has probably already been thought through. But we might be able to make some changes still. Who knows? They might listen to some changes. If we get some cool ones down below, I'll do a video and I'll kind of like share some of that as well. Anyway, there you go, guys. Have yourself a great day. I've been Hell Hades. I'll see you soon.